Hello guys, what's going on? Welcome to another tutorial series. My name is Joshua Tech Guy. Today I'm gonna teach you about the three aspects that we're talking about: the service web, the dark web, and the deep web. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about here, we want to understand in detail what the deep web is, which lies down here after the dark web and the service web right here. So what I'm gonna show you guys is basically give you a very quick introduction. It will be a theoretical one before we do another course of the under the same content, and then from there we can have a larger view of what a deep web looks like. Okay, so what I'm gonna give you is basically a very quick difference between the service web, this which lies above you, and the hidden or the sort of the deep web. Okay, so the deep web also can be called like an hidden web. Okay, so the difference between the service web and the deep web, I will give you examples of what an hidden web or the deep web looks like. So when we talk about the deep web or here, we're talking of services like the private web logins. We're talking about the web archives, where we're talking about the old Yahoo profiles and the Gmail contents. And then lastly, we are talking about the unlinked text content, or what we say the content that does not have what we call the back links. Okay, so basically by going down, I'll give you some sort of a few outline of what a deep web is. So a deep web gives you an access to indexed content that cannot be accessible via the service. So when we look at this, it's some sort of an iceberg in the sea. So we are trying to access that whatever we see here, this is on the service, that what we see here is the service web. So this is the content that we can access using our mobile browser right here. So if you could go to Google, for example, here on your device, and then you sort of try to access an internet using your phone, you can be able to type in some sort of URL or something like a website, and then you can be able to access content from Google. So this is what we call the service web. Then when we talk about the deep web, this contains the content that cannot be accessible via the service web. Okay, so for you to access contents on the deep web, you must pass through the dark web. Okay, so to give you a very quick examples of what a service web looks like. So what we see here, this is a service web, and maybe perhaps if you wanted to have a quick or a good look at it, you can look at something like YouTube. When you access YouTube from your phone or your cell phone or your device that is accessed to wired to internet, you can be able to access content there. So the content that you access from YouTube is lies on the link of a service web. Okay, so talk of Gmail, talk of Google, etc. So these are the contents that are relying on the service web. Okay, so backlinks, if I wanted to give you an example of what a backlink looks like, I say that backlinks, these are contents that are not indexed. Okay, so YouTube has a lot of backlinks, e.g. when you put a link of your website on the YouTube page or on the YouTube video, then people have an access to that page. Then you have created a backlink on a YouTube video. So we say those are backlinks. Okay, so the types of content find on the deep. So you can ask yourself, since we access the service web and we access services that we want, what is this that is contained on the deep web? Okay, so there are some boring stuff there which are found on the deep web, e.g. emails, bank account statements, the pages which are protected by or encrypted by passwords. And then we have to say that these are the kind of boring stuff you're going to find on the deep web. So the deep web doesn't have some interesting stuff, though you can get some beautiful information here, but it doesn't have a lot of stuff that is very useful to you if you're not targeting the specific content where you're accessing this back of the net or the dark side of the web. Okay, which is called the deep net. Okay, cool. So I have some series of questions that I've got from my guys who were asking me. For example, is the deep web illegal? So I'm going to answer this question basing my answer in two scenarios. Number one, the deep or the dark web is not illegal because you can find some good and beautiful information that you cannot find on the surface web. So this information which might be hidden here on the deep web, that you can access and use it to, extract more concrete data that you cannot access on the service web right here. Okay, so you will find that on the service web here, there is some information that cannot give you some concrete information, or this information which is in the service web that does not have a whole like history of what exactly happened or transpired in a specific, for example, a specific history. For example, you want to study about the history of a certain country, for example. You want to study about how the kingdoms and stuffs are happening, or they transpire between different kingdoms or something. You have to get this information. If you don't find it here, then this information must be indexed in the deep web. Okay, so what you're gonna do with the information you find on the deep web depends with what you really want, because it's not never a good information. It's never something beautiful that you can access and be like, you know what, I access information from the deep web and it's helping me. So you have to be very careful on which information that you want to extract and how you're going to process this information. Okay, so the second question I'm going to ask about the deep web or the darknet is basically how adventurous is the deep web. Okay, so in that question I will say that it's more boring stuff that you find on the deep or the dark web than useful information, because this deep web right here contains huge amount of sort of data. So we can look at the service some sort of small library, and then a deep web as a complex library which contains huge amount of data. Okay, so if you visit a website containing viruses, malwares, you're exposed or notified by the website that you're trying to access that this page has malware or viruses. That's on the service net. But now in the deep, like the danger side of it, which makes it very, very dangerous, is that you can access some information here which you're not sure if that link that you're accessing has got a malware or a virus linked to it. So that's the funny part of accessing the deep web. Okay, so also number two, I'm going to say that quality of the page contents on the deep web are totally different, which may contain dirty content, making it some sort of boring stuff. So the quality of the pages that you access on the deep web may not be very variable, may not be having some good information that you may be wanting on the internet. So what you have to do here, you have to be getting some more and more boring stuff, because these content, we have said that it's a huge complex library. When we talk about the service network, we talk about Google, Gmail, YouTube, etc. So this is a small library. So when you talk about the deep web, this is an extensive, this is a complex library which contains a lot and a lot of information. Okay, so another question can be, is deep web the same as dark web? So the answer to that question, to be very specific, no, because this deep web here has got its own access. There is information you find on the deep web that you cannot find on the dark web as well. So they are not the same. As you can see this diagram here, you come from the service web, the most easiest resource you can find is on the dark web. Sorry for that. Then from the dark web you can access the deep web. So there are several channels that you can use to access these sort of channels, so that you can make your accessibility as a success. Okay, so another question can be, can Google search deep web as well? So the question is, can Google search deep web as well? Okay, can you go like service web here and then type deep web and then get information or results after doing some from the search engine? So we'll say that since the deep web is not indexed, or since the Google search engine is not indexed on the deep web, it's not in this web. So like what I'm trying to say here, because Google does not export the pages to these sites, majority of the contents are private. therefore does not index them. E.g., an email service is restricted to one person who owns the email service, for example. Okay, so if you have an email or some email service online hosted with Google, you can be able to access that information by yourself because it's restricted. This is a private information that you're trying to access. But when you go to the deep web or the dark web site right here, you can be able to access that information even if you don't have restrictions. And there, this exposes some dangers and some sort of privacy or some, sort of hacking, because this is where most of the ethical hackers, lie, trying to access services that are hosted on the service web using the deep and dark web. Okay, so the last question will be, what kind of stuffs can you buy on the deep or the dark web? So that question, most of the people are asking it because they really want to know, since you're saying that the dark or the deep web is a good stuff for getting valuable information, then can we buy some stuff from there? So I can tell you that you can buy anything, since there are a lot of marketplaces here than on the service web. On the service web, you can find services like Amazon. You can find services from Walmart and stuff. But when you go to the dark web or the deep web right here, you can be able to find a lot of markets, including markets to sell bonds and market to sell drugs and market to do all sort of things that you want to do. But one thing I'm gonna warn you about the dark or the deep web, it's never a good place to access. But if you want to access it, that's for your own good and for your own risk. If you want to risk that, no problem, but it's never a good thing to access. Thank you guys for watching this. I want to see you in the next beautiful video that we're gonna do on the tutorial series number 2 on the deep, dark, and the service web. See you in the next one, guys. Thanks. Take care. Keep safe.